Okay, so welcome everybody. Once again, my name is George Atsopardi, and I'm professor in pattern recognition at the University of Groningen at the Bernal Institute. And I'm also leader of the working group 4 of the cost action GLITSS, which concerns data science for illicit trade. Today, I have the great pleasure to host Professor Marius Laurinaitis from the Marius University, and his research interests are focused in several key areas, actually. I'm going to list them quickly. He's interested in electronic payments and fintech, exploring the evolving landscape of financial technologies, particularly in the realm of digital and electronic payment systems. Personal data protection, crucial aspect of protecting personal data in the digital age. Cybersecurity, he investigates strategies and technologies to protect systems, networks, and data from cyber threats and breaches. Hybrid threats, which are complex challenges combining conventional warfare, cyber attacks, misinformation, and other non-traditional tactics. And legal regulation, which concerns special attention to the legal aspects, examining how laws and regulations are evolving to keep pace with technological advancements and emerging challenges in cybersecurity, data protection, and fintech. Well, Marius, it's a great pleasure once again for accepting to be with us and sharing your research with us. So yeah, the floor or the screen is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. So once again, yes, I'm Marius. My primary education is in the law field, both the bachelor, master, and the PhD thesis. PhD was related with the electronic money regulation at European Union, especially in the aspect of the money laundering, all these new technologies, threats for the fintech systems, especially of the data protection matters and so on. Today, I'm going to talk about new challenges for the financial sector, especially for the European Union. I'm going to talk about biometric technologies used for that proper identification when we're starting business relationship, and especially when we are making payments. How it's related with the data analysis, because you know, at the money laundering now at our days, we use artificial intelligence algorithms. We're trying to teach and to use them for the identification of suspicion transaction reports. Especially, we have good example from Lithuania, one of the biggest financial institutions. Now it's a bank, Revolut. Previously, they were electronic money institution. Now they use artificial intelligence identification system for the suspicion transactions, and they send more than 100,000 notifications for our financial intelligence units of Lithuania regarding the suspicion transaction. Of course, they're trying to teach the algorithms in the best way, but the biggest problem for them is some legal limitations regarding the data. And because you are interested particularly in data, so you know that European Union has specific regulation regarding the personal data protection. And when we are talking about financial information, it's still personal data. And the banks, if they want to teach or train algorithm by using the data, they use their own data. They're not able to take other financial institutions' data. They're not able to download, for example, synthetic data as at United States possible to do. So yeah, it's a biggest limitation related with the legal some aspects. But today I'm going to start from the most important things and challenges, especially with the financial sectors and the data. We know that identification procedure in the e-space is quite different from the physical space. Why it's very important? Because everything moved to electronic space. I'm not going to explain about digital signature or qualified certificates. We know that we have it. We know that we have more than 24 years experience by regulating it, from the first directive at 2000, from the EURID regulation for 2014. And now, of course, we have trust list by European Commission, where all the companies, if we are providing the digital signatures, they are on the list. And evidentially, they are same legal power as your handwritten signature. So we have the technology to ensure protection of the document. But the biggest problem was to identify who is using those technologies. And we know that typically when we are talking about e-space, our identity is completely different from the physical sphere. In physical place, we need to be by ourselves, so it's my body and something I need to have. So that's mean document with me. And we know that only two options, to be and to have documents. We know that we are storing some specific biometric data on our documents with the one purpose is just to be sure that we are owners of the document. And we know that no one can check the biometrical data on our documents, just the state border protect officers. So that's mean when you are leaving or entering European Union, they are able to ask you to check or to prove that you are owner of the documents. Of course, we're using automatic gates. It's the easiest way because the technology works autonomously. They don't check online or they don't have any access to databases. It's completely autonomous document with our biometrical data on it. And readable device just read some binary codes from the document. You're looking at the camera, they're trying to match it. And if it's green line, so that's mean you are the owner of the document. It's working like this, but for the electronic space, it's not so easy because everything starts from the financial institutions. For the business, for the social networking, it was enough just to know something. Typically, yeah, it's just the static data, password, and your username. It's not good for the financial services. Why? Because if you know, someone else also can know it. And we know that everything starts at the United States from 1995, from 1997, when the SSL certificates were introduced by Netscape Communicator Company. Financial institutions start to offer in the business relationship online. At European Union, everything starts from 2000 when the e-signature directive appears. And from that moment, our financial institutions were able to identify persons remotely by using the electronic signature technology. It was good if the identification was done properly before the electronic communication. But the biggest problem was onboarding new clients remotely. And guess what? Just in 2016, we adopted all necessary laws across the Europe, and we legalized remote identification on when we are trying to onboard new client and new customer. So it's quite a big challenge because before 2016, different services, they used different identification methods. And as I mentioned, the first, what you know, it's not a safe one. It's now, I hope no one use only that first method because we have at least two factors authentication. So it means we're trying to mix and combine first identification method with the second. What you are, what you have. So this means you need to have something. And digital signature is it's that thing that you have. So that means you have specific algorithm, you're the owner of the algorithm, and you know some specific access keys to that algorithm. And it was enough for more than 10 years. But now new threats appear. And that new threats has huge or can do huge impact on existing technology. Of course, we have our digital signatures. We use it when we are onboarding clients for financial institution, when we're using the e-government services, even we are signing agreements. After that, we are able to use it during the court procedure. But the biggest problem is no one can be sure who used that access keys or personal security or identification numbers for the algorithms. We have the experience when the person was unconsciousness at the hospital and someone used the digital signature without the permission, but it's not possible to identify from the document because when you are signing and using your algorithms, no one will check is it you or not. It's just enough to know something and have something. And for the financial institution, it's not enough because it's very important to know who is signing, especially you or not you. So we can understand that the third method is the best one, that you are what you are. So that means biometrical data. But when we are talking about biometrical data, we need to understand that it's a sensitive data regarding our general data protection regulament. And it has completely different regulation. And of course, we're able to use biometrical data only if we have full consent from the subject. So that means agreement from the subject to use it. And it's not just agreement. We need to prove that we don't have any other technologies to reach the same goals of identification. So this means if the bank will ask for what purposes you need to use biometrical data. If you will see each time when the person wants to initiate the payment or make the payment, we need to be sure that it's Marius paying, not someone else. Supervisor authority will say, you know, it's enough just to have the card and have the access keys, for example, to the card, the pins, or it's enough to have the phone and just to allow for the Marius to unlock the phone and use it for the payments. But you don't need to use the biometrical data, store it and proceed with the biometrical data because it's too risky. And it's quite strange. Why are we still using the old-fashioned argument that it's just not so safe? Because when the first regulation of data protection appears, everyone thought that the biggest threat and the risk for the biometrical data is reverse engineering. If some of the subjects will store a lot of biometrical data, and if something will happen, the bad guys will have the access to the primary source of biometrical data, and they were able to reverse it to the primary source of biometrical. So that means they were able to recreate face or fingers. But now we know that it's not true, because we not storing the face images or fingerprints images. We are storing the binary codes of our faces and binary codes of our fingers. So technically, it's not impossible to reverse that data to the primary biometrical data. It's mean that you are storing simple personal data, but not biometrical data. You collecting by using biometrical technologies, but you are not storing biometrical data. It's very important, because otherwise, if you will store really faces images or fingerprint images, you have the risk that someone can just steal it and use it again. So it's a first task to prove that you're not storing biometrical data if you want to use it in your own business or for some other purposes. It's very important to understand, because we know that we have some entrance system, locking system to the computers, entering to the buildings and so on. We are able to use that technology because we're not storing the fingerprints or faces. But we have another problem for the financial institutions. Everything starts from the proper identification. And before 2016, we had very strictly requirement physically identifying clients, eye to eye, physical, to make the copies, to be sure that the person behind you and the person who has the documents the same, and the document data belong to the person. And guess what? Quite strange situation. That means that the bank employer or some guy from the bank who is responsible for the onboarding new clients, he needs to be the professional on the face recognition. So that's meaning he has the document in his hand, look at the photo, look at the person. He needs to be sure that it's the same person. They don't have any legal possibilities to check it. They can just ask question to the national registry system, if it's, for example, Lithuania, or if it's your country and the client has the citizenship of your country. We have the same regulation. The financial institution, they have rights to ask data registry system true or false. So that means they are providing some details from your document, name, surname, document number, and they are asking the question, it's true or false? And National Data Registry will return the answer, it's true, but still, they will be sure that the document is real. But the photos and the client behind him, if it looks similar, yeah, we have some joke. It's sorry if it's offensive joke, but that joke appears more than 20 years ago. 1 passport and 10 Chinese people. It's not possible to identify to whom belong that passports. And without technology, we're not able to just to identify correct person. So that means that financial institutions had a lot of problem with onboarding clients remotely. Physically, yeah, it was enough just to be here, but remotely, even if you had digital signature, it was not enough, because the bank need to be sure that it was you. From 2013, when on the market appeared new fintech companies like the N26 or Revolut company from United Kingdom, we already started to use biometrical comparison of document and the face. You installing the app, I think you did the same if you are using some fintech companies. So first of all, you're taking the picture of your ID or passport. Of course, they have specific, I think they have specific tools. It's a specific software. The software are able to identify the document, type of the document. They're trying to match all requirements to the document. After that, they're taking the photo from the document. They're asking you to make your face selfie. You're making, after that, they're asking you just to turn around a little bit, and they're comparing. If it's match, They know that the document it's that one, and the person behind the camera is owner of the document. After that, they are able to ask the same data registry data on the document, true or false, and they are sure that it was you, but just for the onboarding procedures, not for the further using. And it's a big challenge because legally, regarding the money laundering prevention directive, it's allowed to use high-level technology for identification when you are onboarding new client. After that, the banks are not allowed to use biometrical data anymore because after that, general data protection regulation works. And if you don't have specific exceptions, legal exceptions to use biometrical through the banking services, you're not able to use biometric at all. In Lithuania, more than 2 years ago, we tried to change the law. They changed the payment law and they add specific permission for the financial sector operate with the biometrical data. Of course, our president made a veto on that law because a lot of public organizations were against that change because they thought that the banks will use our medical records, health condition record, when we're evaluating us to give loans or not give loans. So it's a nonsense, completely nonsense. Why financial institutions try to do that? It's just because we want to implement high-level identification each time when you are paying. We need to understand that, of course, we're using our phones and we're able to unlock it by using our face recognition or the fingerprints, but it's not used by the financial institution. Financial institution just believe that your phone is quite secure, and if you are allowed to use the phone biometrical equipment just to identify you, so you are able to allow for the financial application to identify you and open it. And each time when you do that, banks just believe that your phone open application because you are allowed to use the biometrical data and you store that biometrical data on your phone. You're not transmitting biometrical data to financial institution. And it's a problem because I'm able to teach my phone to recognize your face, my face, and open the same applications. The banks are not allowed to check it. The banks were trying to make system at each time when you need to pay and the amount exceeds, for example, 1,000 or more euros, the banks already have your face because they have your actual document copy, digitally copy. They know the face on your document. They have your binary code of your face binary code. So they are able to check it. And each time, for example, if you want to pay, it's just enough to show your face, transmit, or just to use the application to make binary code from your face, send it to the financial institution, compare it, and if it match, the bank knows that you are making transaction, no one else. Because we can transfer our identification tools, our PIN generators, our certificates, everything. It is very huge and big problem just to allow for the banks to use biometrical technology for the proper identification. So it's a new shift for identification in financial institutions because you know that the biggest threats for the financial institution, of course, the money laundering, cyber security, but the legal authorities can give you the huge fine for that. And the big problem, central banks and FIUs can give you the fines regarding the money laundering regime. And the General Data Protection Regulation allows for the DPO organization to give you huge fines regarding the data protection. So they're trying to find the best way and solution for using it. And the same with the digital signatures. We're using the same technology more than 20 years. And now every company, they're issuing the qualified signatures. They're using the same public key infrastructure. So no other options, just to have first PIN number to identify yourself and second PIN number just to prove your will. But when you are entering number, no one will check, is it you or not you? So it's the biggest challenges for the service providers to create more advanced identification system each time when I'm trying to use my signature. It's very important to understand that. And of course, it's changing. Everything can change in cyberspace, especially if we will compare different regions. Because we are here at European Union, we have very strict regulation, but we need to understand that if we will not allow for our financial institution to protect us by using our biometrical data, we will have a lot of problems. The first one, we are using near-field communication technology for the payments, NFC technology. It's based on the radio frequency identification technology, but we still need to have physical cards. We can merge card details with the phone and we are able to pay, and it's more secure because we are trying to keep safe our phones. If you lose phones, you will know it in 10 minutes. If you lose the card, you can just be notified about it after the week, for example. So yeah, we don't use the cards physically except when we want to withdraw the money from ATM machines. So of course, we need to just to update our ATM machines, but we are able to add extra options for the ATM machines just to compare our faces with the data registry, for example, binary codes of the financial institutions. In that case, no one except us will be able to withdraw money from our account. Because at our days when we are using the cards, even if we are using AMV chip and the PIN numbers that is compulsory at European Union, we are still able to just to give the card to others and to ask them to withdraw and to sign the documents electronically. Because if you look at what happens when you are putting card to ATM machine, withdrawing the money, you assign payment document. You're sending to the bank the notification that you want to withdraw the money and you sign that order. So it's a real problem, and the banks, they're not inventing technology. They're using technology and invented by other companies. But companies there analyze different regulation regimes and they say, European Union not allowed to use biometrical data. Sorry, we will not update any ATM machine. And if you compare and look at other countries, for example, United States, you will find that the MasterCard introduced Smile and Pay technology. So that's mean if you allow for the MasterCard company just to merge your face binary code with your payment card details. So that's mean each time when you want to pay, it's just enough to look at the camera and say smile or pay, and you are able to pay. Of course, you have some limitations regarding the amount of the payment, but still, it's just enough to be yourself. So the first identification element, you don't need to have something, you don't need to know something, it's just enough to be yourself. Quite strange, but when the last time I was at Kazakhstan, Almaty city, they have the metro and the payment gates, when you want to just use the metro, they're using the face recognition for the Kaspi Bank clients. And they are paying just by using the faces, because the Kaspi Bank, when they're onboarding new clients, they made the binary codes for each client. And after that, they allow to turn on your binary codes for the payments. Of course, you can say it's a threat because they can identify you by using their own cameras and so on. Legally, practically, yes, it's true. But guess what? It's a paradox of the privacy paradox. Everyone can do the same. If they have your details, they can create your binary codes. Who will check that? No one. So for us, it's better just do it legally, notify us, and just increase our safety. Yeah, it's a problem because the bank can transfer that data or can help, for example, to identify you even if you provide them video recording or the images. And the bank, of course, can compare and say it was Marius, it was other person. But still, yes, we have the threats, but it's dependent on you. If you are ready to provide your binary code just to have better way of the payment, it's upon you. If you don't want to do that, use the old-fashioned type payments, but the financial institution, they have big obligations to increase payment safety. It's very important to understand because European Union or Commission, they force financial institution to increase payment all the time, safety of the payment all the time. So the question, how to reach goals without using biometrical technologies? We already have the generators, certificates, everything. We use the phones still. We are unlocking phones by using the biometrical data. It's okay, but financial institution should have some stronger tool to do that. And it's important, yes. Why biometrical biometrical technology can help fight against the money laundering? First of all, of course, is identifying authorization identification of the client. It's very important because now we know that the social engineering is very on the high level, and the criminals were trying to get all identified tools and connect to your financial institution. So we're trying to get the phones, algorithms, generators, everything. They fool you, They just can make or can use very difficult social engineering mechanisms just to get your access credentials to the financial institutions. So if they are able to use without you, so that technology is old one. And if you compare your own financial institution, of course, you're using at least two factors. So this means when you're trying to connect to the bank will send some message to you, to number, not to you, to your phone. The bank will can ask to use the certificates or entering dynamic code from the one-time code generator and so on, but still, just data, just numbers. And instruments, it can be used by other person. The bank is not asking it's you or not. The bank simple ask, do you know something? And you have something. If yes, that means it's you. But at our days, it should be done in other ways. Detecting deepfakes and other types of synthetic attacks. It's also very important, especially after the COVID lockdown situation. For the bank, it was very important to identify clients correctly. So they were asking to connect remotely. First of all, connect to your bank, and after that, inside of the bank system, you will find the link, and we're able to talk through the video, for example, conference system. But still, someone also were able to connect by using the other's credentials. And the bank employee was not sure talking with the Marius or not Marius, because the system not showing anything, just say, yeah, the credentials were correct, but who is behind you? It's a big problem. And especially when someone using the artificial intelligence for the voice changing, I think you know that you're able to find the algorithms. For them, it's just enough to have 5 or 10 minutes of your speech, and they're able to create your voice deep fakes, even the faces deep fakes and other things. So it's a problem, yes. If the person will compare it. For the system, it's not a problem. System can identify it correctly. Fraudulent payment, the same. If you know that the biggest obligation for the financial institution is just identify unusual financial behavior of the client. For that, they need to know what is usual financial behavior. And it's annoying us because we're filling different questionnaires, we're answering a lot of questions. If we are trying to make some abroad transfers, for example, for third countries, especially if the countries has some minimum risk, especially with the money laundering, terrorism financing, and so on. So in that case, the best option is just to use also some specific identification elements just to be sure that it's Marius making transfers of 10,000 euros to Kazakhstan, even if it's the first time when you do that, because the bank need to be sure that it's me, it's really me. And it's quite interesting when we are looking at different practice across different institutions. For example, some of the companies were asking to update each time the data. So that means they are asking to provide new information about you. They are tracking your validation of the personal document, where they can ask you to provide more documents element and turn on camera just for the another identification. It's you or not you. But typically, we are doing just when we are onboarding new clients, when we have relationship related with the payments, they don't use the biometric identification technologies because we're not allowed to do that. It's important to understand. Yeah, it's a problem, as I mentioned. Digital identity, we have some recommendation from Financial Action Task Force group from United States. You know that it's the biggest organization, FATF. It's responsible for the money laundering prevention unifying system across the world. So they have specific 40 recommendations regarding the money laundering prevention and 9 specific recommendations, especially with the financing of the terrorism. And they issued the recommendation regarding the digital identity. And of course, because it's the strongest country, United States and others, and non-European Union countries, they are members of the FATF. They are using that technologies. They're not prohibited to use it. So that means they are able to force financial institutions to check, to use biometric checking and everything. But the biggest problem is for us, for European Union banks. So our activists, they're saying that the biometric digital identity tools can have some impacts on the human rights, relationship right to privacy and freedom from discrimination and other things. It's quite interesting because, as I mentioned, the paradox of the privacy. At the same time, we're saying that we care about our privacy, and it's very important to be private, to have the privacy. Privacy is just simple axioma. We don't need to prove that we have that right. But at the same time, we're uploading the photos, we're using social networking, we are using different application made in China but different aging. They can just put the layers on our face and mask and so on. So we are already transferring our biometrical data to the third countries many times. But when we are talking about our safety and the financial safety, so we're just asking, for what needs, for what purpose, you're able to use the old-fashioned types, it should be enough, I can just be safe by my own, and so on. So it's quite strange to hear that arguments from some members of the European Parliament, for example, and we are saying that if the banks will use the biometrical technologies, so you will not be safe anymore. Once again, the banks will not store your biometrical data. The banks will store binary codes. And banks will not be able to reverse binary code to primary biometrical data. The question is, who will check the technology? But for that, we have some certification requirements. For that, we have requirements from central bank to prove the cybersecurity issues, for example. We know that what is a safe system, or what is the safety? We don't have 100% safety. The safety should understand as some condition that you need to spend more when you are able to get benefit. If you can prove it, so it's a safe. So that's mean if you need to spend 100,000 euros just for that access my bank account, and the maximum transfer amount is just 1,000 euros, and after that I have a lot of limits, so it's a safe technology. You will spend 100,000 euros just to get my 1,000 euros. Great, it's very safe. So the same, the bank will prove that they are using biometrical identification technology by using the binary codes. They are not storing the face. We're not able to reverse data. So even if they lose the data, they lose just simple personal data. We have a lot of data leaks with no any problems. So I know that my name, surname, email, my date of birth, and so on, it's online. No problem at all. I don't have any risk of that. The most important for me is just block others from recreate my face or recreate my fingers, eyes, and so on. But I also know that you are able to take picture of my face. But in that case, I am asking to create more advanced technology when someone will try to match my face. I want to ask them to use specific waves, deeps, and so on, just not just simple 2D image comparison, but just use the more precise technology. And if the bank will do that, our safe just increase. And once again, I think that the privacy is very important. But at the same time, I think we're not able to reach goals without biometrical identification anymore. We're not able, because especially after artificial intelligence appears on the market. So it's important to understand. The question is, should digital identity be compulsory for the financial services? We can think about other projects from European Union. We know that we will have our digital ID of European Unions. So now we have our personal identification cards with the digital signatures on it. We know that we have some national project regarding digital ID, but we will have European ID, digital ID profiles. So that's mean each European citizen will be identified, centralized, and the data will be exchanged between states, main member states. So it's mean it's even more safe for us. If I want to open, for example, financial institution account, it's not necessary to provide any extra data for a financial institution. Maybe it will be enough just to give them access to the European ID, my European ID, and they will just download everything what we need. They will just be sure that it's me. I will sign in once again with my digital signatures. I will put my face. And in that case, it'll be more safe because I will know that my ID is the same everywhere. It's no matter what kind of the technology bank used, the primary source is my European ID. So it's very important. And we need to think about different technology used by other financial institutions across the world. because they already use the proper identification. We already use the new type of the technology. They already use the voice recognition, the face recognition, not just simple the smiles, and many different biometrical data as it's possible to use. Just one interesting fact, I read the article about electromagnetic brain waves scanning. So one Japanese company trying to create a helmet for the identification purpose. So if it's very, as I understood, important system, and you need to identify yourself, we would put the helmet on the head, and we will look at the pictures, or we'll read something. And our magnetic waves of our brain, it's so unique that it's our biometrical recognition data. And it's 100% more secure than our faces or fingers and so on, because it's our brain waves. So can we imagine they are already investing and trying to create that kind of the technology? Even if we're not here at European, we still don't use the simple face image recognition, full recognition, not just as some commercial product for that, but I'm talking about full implementation for the financial sector and so on. Because typically you're able to use that technology on your own computer, but once again, it's local. They store locally. So they store all the codes here with your phone, on your computer, but none of the European Union company are able to collect your biometrical data and to use it for the commercial purposes without your consent. Even if you give them consent, DPO can ask, is it necessary or not? Because you can reach the goals with the lower level of technology. Don't use the high level of technology for the same goals if you're able to reach them with the low level technology. So it's an old-fashioned type of view. I think we are not able to reach the same goals with the old-fashioned technology. We need to use new technology. That's for sure. Same, of course, we have some disadvantages, technological disadvantages when we are talking about biometrical data. And yeah, we say it's a false positive because it's depend on the algorithm. More precise algorithm, more expensive. If we'll use simple one, it would give us false positive identification. I'm not sure, but if we're talking about twins, for example, and we're completely 100% equal, so that means biologically they're the same. So I'm not sure about the biometrical algorithms. Are we able to identify them or not? But I make tests with my students because I had twins, identical twins. And guess what? They were able to open each other iPhones by using Face ID. So quite interesting. So they fooled the Apple easily. Same with the fingers. It's quite strange because the fingerprints should be different, even if it's a twins. But the Samsung phones with the fingerprints, they were able to open each other's. But the most important that they are able to open the Face ID of the Apple. Brothers were able to open each other phones. Quite strange. So that's mean the false positive. And okay, it's just if the twins, but still, it's even if it's 1%, so we need to think about it. Number of users will increase dramatically because just what if 500 million users, okay, twice less, 250 million users across the European Union will use the biometrical identification procedure, and not locally, but remotely. That's mean you need just to get your binary code, send to the data center, match, not match, return the answer. What about the infrastructure? What about the speed of system? And it could be challenging because the face and the biometrical data, it's more data. It's not just a simple hash of your passport and so on. The same of the ATM machines. We have hundreds of thousands of ATM machines. If we will implement new regulation, it's a question about changing of the technology. So we need to invest a lot of money to the machines. The biggest problem if the biometrical data will be the same all the time. If something will happen, compromise or so on, you're not able to change your biometrical data. So that means it's just all the time the same data. And the bigger threats are not just talk about betrayal investigations, secret agencies, and so on, but simple person who has the right to change the names, for example. If they are witnesses and they're changing the IDs, they has the right to change ID. If they're changing the gender and so on, biometrically, they're the same. So how we can be sure that we'll be able to change the primary records? No, we are not. But it's just more exception than the rules. So maybe we'll just we will find some solution for that case, but especially just for everyone. The another problem, different technologies and different biometrical algorithms and so on. We know that we have some principle. The most important when we are talking about IT regulation is the technological neutrality. We are not able to adopt one law for the technology. We're not able to identify technology. We are able to adopt the requirements, standards, but we're not able to show the technology. You know, it's quite strange because if we look at the previous practice from European Union, the newest one, we changed the requirement regarding the USB-C standards for the charging devices. It's quite strange. I can understand environmental sustainability and so on, but we just adopt one technology, one requirement to use USB-C. Quite strange. Do we have any research or something regarding the efficiency and so on? No, we just looked at the market. Everyone using USB-C, so we'll force others to use USB-C. Still, but we have technological neutrality. Another very important principle is functional equality. So it means if we have some relationship physical field, and we transfer that relationship to electronic field, we need to use the same laws. And for the identification, it's a requirement. If physically we need to be sure that it's you, we need to look at your face, we need to look at your document. Electronically, it should be the same. You should look at the face and you should look at the data. It's not just enough to use data. It's the biggest problem. Even if physically are not able to identify correctly, but still we have the same requirements. And of course, we have self-regulation. Self-regulation is not good when we are talking about biometrical data because we need to be sure that you are using the correct algorithms, you're using the safe algorithms, and you are trying to protect our data. Of course, the biometric system can be sensitive to physical and environmental conditions. You know, electricity, lockdowns, for example, or blackouts. So yeah, it's a threat, but same as now, when you're using the payment in the services, cards and so on, if you don't have the electricity, you're not able to pay. If you don't have the network access, you're not able to pay. So for that reason, European Union started a new project. If you didn't heard it, so it's called Digital Euro project. And for me personally, it's very interesting because they promised to use autonomous payment system and portable payment system. Autonomous means that we will use the electronic document stored on our device. Portable means that we don't need to have any network connection for the transferring money. So it will be completely cash analog money from the cash. It's autonomous, offline, portable electronic money system. And the purpose is to be sure that you'll be able to pay even if you are off grid, even if it's a blackout of electricity. If you have the device and it have the power source, you are able to transfer the money to other people physically if you are near to each other. So yeah, it's also a question of the technology. And the wallet will be related with the UID, European Union ID. So that's mean digital ID. So for that, we need to be sure that only me or you will have the access to the wallet. Without the biometrical identification, you're not able to reach that goals. So I think in the near future, we will see new regulation, especially with the exceptions of using the biometrical data first in the financial services and after that, other services also. Storing and managing biometric data requires substantial infrastructure, including secure databases and privacy protection measures. Yes, but it's the same requirements for the personal data. Because once again, if we will use the technology transferring our biometrical primary data to the binary codes, and it will not be possible to reverse to the primary one. So it's just a simple personal data. So the same requirements as we have now, privacy by design, as usual, and privacy by default. So it's nothing new. Same data, same requirements. And of course, I know that we have different providers and manufacturing of the devices, different quality of the cameras and sensors, but we already adopt some specific laws. If we look nationally, Lithuania, for example, we have specific law related to public procurement. So if you're trying to buy something, we have the requirements. It should be produced by the NATO or European Union country or allies country. So that means at least all our public services and other critical infrastructure entities, they will use proper ID, proper technology. So that means safe one, produced by the well-known and good-known companies. So they are using the certified technology. So it's not, I think it's not a big secret that if you want to buy something, you're looking at manufacturer name. The price is not on the first place now when we are talking about cybersecurity. I'm using the Apple infrastructure because I believe that the Apple encryption level is a little bit higher than compared with others. Of course, I'm not a technical guy, but I understand that every technology could be break, but still, I like the usability. It's good for me. I understand how it works. So yeah, the future, the big question will we have the right to force you to use technology, for example, safe technology? Now we don't have that right. Just imagine, if you're using old phone with the old operating system, you're not updating it, you don't have any specific software for the safety and protection, the financial institution may have the risk that you will lose your credentials. You will lose your digital signature credentials, everything, because it's on your own. If you lose, your fault. But now we see that the practice change. Just for the understanding, before 2011, we had the magnetic stripes on our cards. And it was possible to make crime without your card. Just skim your magnetic stripe data, write it on the white card, and use out of the European Union, third countries. For that, European Union made a law change and they forced us to use AMB chip. And each time when we are paying, we were using and now we're using the pins because they thought that it's not possible to clone card. And it is, it's very expensive to do that. So practically no one clones the cards. And it's quite safe, but we still have the magnetic stripe on our card with all necessary data on it. Next step, we thought the big risk, each time when we are paying, no matter which amount of the money, we are using static data, the 4-number PIN code, 4-digit PIN code. Even if you are paying for the glass of water or coffee cup. Of course, we know that we changed the regulation and we allowed to use near field communication payment without any proof of the pins and so on. We have some limits, amount limits now. It's a 50 euros in Lithuania, it depends nationally, but you can ask, so if you don't need to enter any codes, it's not safe. It's safe enough because you don't have any risk to lose your PIN number. So you can't control your risk. And if you merge the payment instrument data with the phone, so it's even the better because once again, you're trying to keep phones safe. So they're trying to force us to move all the payment instrument to put it on the phones and not use the card as the element because the card itself, it's a very old instrument. But the phones are able to protect your data more precise. And for that, we need just to have some regulation regarding the technology, what kind of the manufacturing phones, software, and so on we'll use, because we know that different chips, different finger scanners, cameras, and so on, they have different technical possibilities to check. But once again, everything belongs to the algorithms. And for the financial institution, now bigger threats is when they are onboarding new clients, they are creating technology by their own. So that means they create the algorithm which help them to check the face in front of the camera and the face from the document, and the algorithm trying to check it. And if they succeed, so that means if they have the good algorithm, it's good for them. But if something will happen, the central bank can give them the huge fine for that. For that reason, they are asking from the market, can someone help us to create that algorithms? And we have some companies which are providing that kind of the services, but also it's a risk because we need to understand that it's just for the onboarding procedure, not for the further using. So a lot of limitation, legal limitation. Even the business model could change if the European Union will not allow to use the proper identification and proper onboarding by using the biometrical data. So I'm not sure it was clear or not, but we don't have any technical limitations. We have just legal limitation for the biometrical technology. And the same for the money laundering. I know that some of you are working with the big data. And the most important, of course, to have data sets, big data sets, huge data sets for the analyzing and teaching the algorithms to identify something, for example, suspicious transactions. For that reason, we need to think about open banking concept. We need to force our governments and European Union to allow us to access financial institution data for just analysis. Of course, anonymized data, just to give the huge amount of the transaction details to teach and to educate the algorithm to identify it, because otherwise, the United States companies and Asian companies, they already do that because they have rights to access that data. Of course, you're able to get the access to United States financial institutions data, and you're able to download synthetic data. But the biggest problem is different regulation of payment instrument. For example, in the United States, we don't have specific obligations. So that's mean when someone is using cards online, they don't force them to use two factors or more safe mechanism because they use the principle. Simplicity leads to publicity. Make it simple, everyone will use it. European Union has completely different regulation. They say if you are using it online, you need to add multiple safety layers on it. So if it's a small shop, so you need to forward or just to ask bank permission, the person should give the permission through the application to use the card details and so on. It's not so simple. And that's why United States were just thinking, okay, just use the technology for the prevention measures. And European Union says, okay, first of all, make it difficult, and maybe no one will try to cheat or just to make frauds. But as we see, we don't have any success in that field. A lot of losses, damages, and so on. So it was my short presentation about the challenges in biometrical data, but of course it's not not so easy to present so complicated topic in short time, but still I think some of the key elements I provided. So maybe someone has particular questions regarding the topic or.
Thank you very much, Marius, for this very interesting talk. Well, I invite the audience to pose any questions. Anyone?
And of course it's quite interesting, just for the questions, just to realize the situation of the European Union. We are talking about unifying the regulation. We have the same regulations, directive, and so on. But even if we have same regulation across all European Union, still we have different practice. Simple example of the dashboard cameras. So that means video recorders from the cars. In some countries, you are able to use it. For example, in Germany and Austria are not able to use it, and you will get the huge fine for that. Even if the same principles, the same regulation, but in one country you're able to use the technology, in another European Union country you're not able to use the technology. So once again, if someone will introduce the new way of the payment or identification by using the biometrical data for that, I just can't imagine what happened at Germany, for example, and Austria, because they have very conservative views on the personal data, and they are afraid of the some new things, especially with the finance and the privacy. So yeah, we need to agree somehow, or we need to prove that we don't have any other option to reach the goals of the safety. So yeah, it's very important.
Thank you. And anyone with questions? I do have a couple of questions, but I'll give priority to the audience first. Yes, Yanis?
Okay, dear colleagues, thank you, Marius, for very bright presentation. And I'm a foreign banker, and I know how it was difficult, let's say, some 20 years ago, but now we have new challenges. But still, I have one question. I agree that future for ID of the clients, it's in biometrical data. But what to do with some poor people who don't have access to some technologies, and so what to do with them in this case?
Yes, Yanis, thank you for the question, and it's a very important question. You know, I had the intention to not mention this because it's a real problem for the poor, or as we say, low technology level people. We're not using the technologies. We don't have, for example, proper smartphones. We don't have data plans for mobile plans. And yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. The same with the elder people. Even if we're providing the payment cards and we're asking them to keep it safe, your PIN numbers, just imagine what happened. We will just also we'll ask them to use biometrical data each time when we are paying and so on. It will be huge problem. Yes, it's unsolved problem. And once again, yeah, I had the intention not mention this because I don't know the answer with that, because I hope that technology will be simple, because once again, simplicity leads to publicity, but we all understand that, yeah, it's not possible to reach. You still need to know something. So that's mean you still need to have specific knowledges of the technology. Now the same with the banking. For that reason, we have physical branches for the bank. The elder people are able to go to the bank physically to ask some questions, to make transactions. But in the future, everything will change. And yes, Yanis, it's a huge challenges. For that reason, some of the not the banks, even the countries and our central bank, the same, and the finance ministry, they are thinking about elder people because the huge number of them are clients of the bank. And yeah, one of the reasons that they are not pushing the updates for the technology, because we're thinking about the elder people.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. So you mentioned that in Astana, in Kazakhstan, you could buy tickets just by your face, you know?
Yeah.
And my question is the following. What is your prediction? When will be the time when I will go to Vilnius and I will buy a ticket, let's say in bus or on trolley bus, just by my face?
So yeah, and you know, just a small fact. Physically, I looked at the camera. It was Higgs vision cameras, and I look at the model, and I understood that it's just simple view, you know, of the image of the faces, and the algorithm compare just simple 2D images. So that's mean you're able to print my face on the big format and put behind the camera, and it should work. And I asked from the Kaspi Bank, because I know personally some IT guys, and they said, you know, we launch that payment services just for the small amount. So that's mean the price of the ticket is just 35 European cents. Yeah. So they know that. But if we are talking about the payment across the European Union, so that's mean without the big standards as Master or Visa, we'll not be able to transfer that data. So that's mean our banks will not share data with our banks. So that's mean we need to have some interoperable system. So as Master or Visa. From our side, Master and Visa, they are American companies. And of course, European Union will not allow for the American companies to proceed with our biometrical data and to store it on the servers, for example, out of the European Union. Otherwise, we will not reach the goals to pay with our faces across the world. So it's also a legal problem. If we will create, for example, Smile and Pay infrastructure in Europe, technically it's not possible because the Master and Visa should make some limits, geographical limits. They will not do that. They will say for the Europeans who will not allow to do that, but for the United States citizens, if they are traveling across the world except the Europe, and if they are able to find the places across the world by the face, no problem. If it's Visa or MasterCard, we will accept the payments by the faces because we identify clients already. So yes, Yanis, I think without some, I don't know, agreements or without another technology, maybe European Union will create their own technology. But I think that everything starts from the proper identification by using your own financial services. So that's mean when you're sending some request to your bank or order to your bank, so it will be just multiple or additional identification feature, but not for the payments. I don't believe that we will use the biometrical payments in the future, especially here at European Union. It's quite hard to implement. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Since we mentioned the face recognition systems now, I'm curious to know, besides fingerprint recognition, which we now, at least I use it to connect with my internet banking with my fingerprint.
But can I just clarify? You're
Yeah.
using unlocking the application on your phone.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't provide any biometrical data to your financial institution. You just simply allow for the app access your phone identification element. So that means your bank issues the application. And the application, when you're installing your phone, identify your phone model, and they know the chip, sensor, everything. And they just allow you to change access method. So that means if you want on your own risk, you're saying each time when my finger is on my phone, I am allowing you to use it as identification of me to open the application. Phones identify you, the phone identify you, and the send command to the application to open. The banks just know that the phones open application, and that's it. The banks will not check your fingers, will not have the access to the application data. Just see that your phone provides green lights for the application.
Okay.
So yeah, we need to be but it's quite interesting. We need to believe that phone will not transfer our biometrical data to financial institution, you know? We just need to believe because we're not able to do that, not allowed to do that regarding the laws. But it's the same like the Apple says, we are not keeping your biometrical and face recognition images. We're not keeping it, but who can check?
Yeah, so my question on face recognition was going to be, are there any banks already that are using face recognition systems? And if yes, how much?
Okay, I'm sure that every bank, the big one.
I have another part of the question, but you can answer this part.
Okay. Every bank use the biometrical identification only when we're onboarding new clients because they have requirements regarding the money laundering directive of the European Union. They need to have proof that they check your face with the document and everything. So for that, they use the biometrical recognition system. They store it, but just at the beginning. So that means they have everything. They have the algorithms. They are able to check it, and they do that, but only when they are onboarding clients. Then they are signing agreement with you and opening the account.
So are you saying that when a new client opens a new bank account, they are taking a picture of the face of the client?
Yes, if you are using remote identification.
Remote.
Yes, when you're using your phone and you're opening the account, using the cameras, they have obligation to record it or to use telematic, biometric comparison algorithms.
So the second part of the question is, how are they dealing with the challenges of deepfake and, like face morphing attack, for example?
So typically, they are asking just, it's a simple. Some of the banks are asking to move the head around and so on. Yeah, you can create and do that. Some of them ask you to read something, just to move your I don't know, month, and so on. And after that, most important thing, nationally, when you are opening the account at your national bank, for example, or financial institution, and you are a citizen of the same state, all financial institutions, they are able to get access from the data registry. So that's mean they just prepare the document with your name, surname, and some faces details, and they're sending the request to the data registry, and they're asking it's true or not. They're not receiving the all data. They just simply ask the question, true or false, and the data registry system return the answer. It's true. So that means bank knows that your name, surname, date of birth, the document number, even the face is the same that is on the data registry system. So it's changed from 2018. They allowed to access that national data registries, but just for the, as I mentioned, proper identification when you are onboarding new client. The same way of trying to create big exchange system for European Union financial services. If someone from Spain want to try to open the bank account here at Lithuania remotely, now it's a challenge because only one thing, just to look at your ID, look at your face to match it and say, okay, it's Marius, but with no approval from the national registry system of your country. It's, of course, problem of the deepfakes. So for that reason, a lot of financial institutions were trying to limit or just not allow to open account remotely if you are not a citizen of the same country, except of the fintech companies, because fintech companies were trying to deal with the risk management. So for that, they are just trying to use some advanced technology, the moving of the faces around by the circle to say something and so on. So, yeah.
Okay, and once the account is opened and they have the biometric data of your face, the next time you want to access your financial
yes, and you just
how is the face used? Is it by a webcam?
so,
By an image?
it's regarding the EURID regulation. It's a regulation about the digital signatures. You have the options to agree on technology that you will be using for identification of your own and for the signing digital documents. So the banks or fintechs will offer you technology or just mechanism. For the next time, we agree that we will use public key infrastructure, or we will use on-time passcode generator stored on your phone. We will use two-key or two-factor authentication. So your client number is that, and each time when you will connect to us, we will ask you to provide some dynamic element, but we will not use your face or biometrical data anymore because we're not allowed to do regarding the laws. So they just agree on different technology. So the banks usually, they're using the mobile signature, public key infrastructure signature store on the generator or card, USB applications, codes by SMS, and so on. They're just inventing new types of the proof of your ID, but we're not able to use real biometrical. Otherwise, each time it will be just enough to look at the camera, not opening your phone, but to provide your details to the financial institution. And just example, use over the voice. Yes, I am Marius Laurinaitis, and the application will open. That will be the easiest way, of course.
Okay, thank you, Marius. I see Guru raising his hand. Yes, Guru.
Hi, Marius. It was a great talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Like today, we have multi-factor authentication. For example, a combination of a password and let's say one-time password. So why not we introduce a multi-factor biometric authentication? For instance, a combination of Face ID and a fingerprint. Have a combination of both instead of just one, because it's difficult to fool a system when you want to fool at both the levels instead of just one.
Yeah, the first part, the face, the image, it's more easy because it's no matter what kind of the camera you use, you're still able to get, I don't know, the primary source of the images, and you're able to compare it. And for that reason, all the manufacturers of the phones are using the cameras and on. And yeah, it's good for that. You're able to make photos of your document, to make selfie, to send to the financial institution. They're able to compare it. When we are talking about fingerprints, so we need to unify the technology because different sensors has different sensitivity. And I'm not very good in that, but as I understand, some of the sensors, they use the electric, how it says from the surface, electric static, blah, blah, blah. So it's mean when they look at different electric fields on the surface, and when you're putting the finger, different electricity goes through the finger. They're not just scanning your fingerprint from the surface. They just leads the electricity through your finger and look at how it goes. Some of the technology use the lights, and they're trying to look at the veins inside of the finger. So it's depend on the technology. Yeah, the best way is to combine the technology, but I think we are talking about some autonomous system like ATM machine. For example, on all the manufacturers of ATM machine can agree. We will use light sensors for scanning finger veins, not the surface. For the phones, it's depend where scanner is. If it's separate, you can scan the image. If it's on the screen, so that's mean you will scan the electricity. How would say it's specific term? Yeah, maybe understand, but it's depend on the technology. It's quite hard to force everyone to use one. Camera, still, it's image. So yeah, the Apple use different cameras, microwaves, and so on, but still it's the image, and you are able just to see. With the fingers, it's a little bit different. But more than 6 years ago, some Polish banks, they introduced the ATM machine with the finger scan. So it was necessary to put card, entering PIN, and put the finger. So they already have the practice. And if you entering on the Google ATM with fingerprints, you will find it. But all of them, they are using the vein scans. They have the light sensors and they're using the vein scans. It's why? Because one of the biggest problem, now we have the winter here in Lithuania. I have my smart home system based on the Home Assistant, and I have my door lock with the biometric scanner, fingerprint scanner. For me, it's okay, but for my kids, after when they're returning from the school, they're taking the snow by the hand, and the finger change. They become the wet, and the sensor will not read them correctly. So yeah, but it's not a problem at all. But answering to Guru to your question, I think it's dependent. It's because of the different technology of the scanners of fingers. So it's
Okay.
easiest way just to use the face and the voice, also the voice.
Yeah, thank you.
And European Union, Central Bank and the Commission, they have the recommendation and even the requirement when we are talking about online payments, we need to combine two methods of identification each time. We have 3 of them: to know something, to have something, and to be yourself. So we need to combine 2 of them because we're not able to use biometrical. So only 2 of these: know something and have something. So algorithms, certificates, and codes. So we don't have any other options to do.
Okay.
Yet. Yeah.
Thank you, Marius. Are there any more questions from the audience?
As I understood, a lot of people are from the IT sector. So yeah, I'm right. You're working with...
No, not necessarily.
okay.
The invitation was open for
Oh, okay. Yeah,
all the
that's
cost section members, first of all, but even for the general public.
yeah.
Well,
So it's a big challenge. If you are working with the data, especially with the big data, so the access to the data, first of all, yeah. And then after that, just to find the as we say, indicators of the suspiciously of so on. So it's a huge challenge, especially for the money laundering, because everything changes, especially when they're using the cryptos. We have new regulations regarding cryptos, but still they will use the artificial intelligence algorithms for hiding themselves. Yeah, it will be cat and mouse all the time.
I see Beza, she switched on her camera. Do you have any question? You're muted. You are muted, Beza. We cannot hear you.
Sorry, I want to thank you, Marius, for all the presentation. It was quite interesting. It's a thing that we already do in our everyday, but don't understand the backstage of all the activities. So thank you, Marius, for your presentation. And definitely we have now an address when to ask the question if we'll have something on our way. But this is the kind of thing which is a technically informatics. So it seems to me obvious. It means you make me sure that my biometric data are not owned by the bank. So that's the thing that I already understood by all of these things. The thing is that my biometric data may be in the phone, and that's much more dangerous than the bank, because the company who owns the phones is something which I don't have any clue. While for the bank, at least, I have an office, I have somewhere to go if something happens and so on. So it was a good news from one side, but still not very happy for the whole story in general. But yeah, thank you. Thank you, Marius.
Thank you. As I said, we should believe that the manufacturer of the phones are not using our data. So we should believe.
But they have it. So that's the most important thing.
Once again, just strong belief.
If there is any brain there who wants to use our biometric data, they can use it every time. Today I read that the experiment of putting chips in the brain is already a reality, which means that hope people don't have a bad thought. If they are having a bad thought, everything can happen in this world. So,
and I just remember an interesting fact.
It's a question of the person who owns our data in the phone company. Our biometric data, but this is something bigger than us. So okay, thank you, Marius.
I just remember a small fact about the chips, and because of the limitation of using biometrical data at European Union, so a lot of enthusiasm, they are using the AirFit technology implants for the hand for the opening doors and to make the payments. So simply they transferring the chip to the small seed as a device, and to put it on the hand. Because of that, they are not able to create the biometrical technology, so they're using the simple AirFit chips to the hand, especially the German and Scandinavian countries. You're able to find some initiative groups if you're entering the AirFit chip in hand. So they're using it for the unlocking doors. For the payments, the problem, because you need to get the access from the Master and Visa, but the technology is allowed to do that. If you look, we have the payment rings. You're able to pay by rings because it's just near field communication technology. It's not a big problem to put it inside of the hand. So yeah.
Well, I'm afraid
lucky us living in this kind of world.
Yeah, there's a risk of opening Pandora's box here.
Yeah, definitely.
And thanks for summing up nicely the talk of Marius, Beza. Well, once again, thanks for this inspiring talk, Marius. It was a great pleasure listening to you. I hope it was the same for the audience.
Yes.
Yeah, and I hope we will continue this series of webinars in the coming weeks and months, and so everybody stay tuned with us.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity to be with you.
It was our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.